Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hesti Pramita Lubis. So today I am going to show you about my classroom action research with the title The Use of Shadowing Technique to Improve Student Pronunciation of the Ninth Grade at SMP and 31 Banjarmasin in the academic year 2022-2023. This one, we have chapter one, which is introduction. In introduction, we have background of research. So, speaking is an important social interaction activity. We can interact, talk, and convey our idea to other by speaking. If we can communicate effectively, we can freely communicate with others and find it easier to obtain information faster. Speaking has played an important role in our life, but in education, English speaking activity become underrated skill. Most of students think English speaking is difficult. They have no confidence to learn and do English speaking. Thus, the student speaking performance is not well. So there are some technique can be used to improve English speaking pronunciation. One of them is shadowing technique. Shadowing technique is an imitation technique where one is imitating another speaker or certain aspect or elements of someone else's speech. Shadowing in English is one of the best ways to improve English speaking skill as it helps improve pronunciation, intonation, and vocabulary. Shadowing technique is a simple technique and everyone can apply it in learning English. And this next one is problem limitation. This research was focused by use of shadowing technique to improve students' pronunciation of the ninth grade at SMP and 31 Banjarmasin in the academic year 2022-2023. Uh, so this is a statement of the problem. Based on the background above, the problem of the research want to know was as follow. Could the implementation of shadowing technique improve the student pronunciation at the ninth grade of SMP and 31 Banjarmasin in the academic year 2022-2023? And for the objective of the research, based on the explained above, this study aims to find out whether the implementation of shadowing technique will improve the student pronunciation. And then for benefit of this research, we have two benefits here. There is for the student and for the teacher. For the students, by applying shadowing technique, students are expected to improve pronunciation in English. And for the teacher, shadowing technique is expected to solve teacher problem in teaching English and become one of the most encouraging way of the teaching. So the next one is chapter 2, theoretical review. In theoretical review, the concept of speaking. The first one is definition of speaking. According to Brown 1994, speaking is process to collect the data of information and in accepting, produce, and process the data to be valid information and ready to deliver as good communication. The next one we have aspect of speaking. Uh, the aspect we have at least 5 components of speaking skills, namely pronunciation, comprehension, fluency, grammar, and vocabulary. Pronunciation. Pronunciation is the way for people to produce clearer language when they speak. And the next one is comprehension. Comprehension is the study how well students understand a language. And the fluency. Fluency is how fast and how much a learner speaker without frequent pause because functionless repetition, self-correction, and self-start in coping with the real-time processing. And, and the next is grammar. Grammar and speaking have a close relationship. In addition to the sound system, learner must be taught by using a structured system of language. And the last one is vocabulary. Vocabulary is range of word known or used by a person in a trade, profession, and etc. If students have many vocabularies, it will be easier for him to express his idea. And then the next one is the concept of pronunciation. Definition of pronunciation. Pronunciation is the way is which language spoken, the way is in which the word pronounced, and the way a person speaks the words of language. The concept of shadowing technique. Here is the definition of shadowing technique. Shadowing technique is a technique that develops the language learner listening, speaking, and potentially reading skill simultaneously as the learner repeats the text as soon as he or she hear it spoken by a speaker or form an audio recording. And then in, in step of shadowing technique, we have 4 steps here. So shadowing technique is one of learning technique that is considered easy to be applied. The step of shadowing technique or the first one is listen to MP3 or MP4 related to the topic. The second one is understanding vocabulary, intonation, and pronunciation from the audio or video. The third one is trying to imitate what the speaker says, and the last one is repeating this step until we can follow the speaker correctly in almost the same time. The shadowing technique repeats exactly what the speaker says without any modification. This is to research us how to pronounce things correctly by hearing, repeating, and imitating what the native speakers say. They train our pronunciation to sound like theirs. So here is the previous research. The research of shadowing technique had been investigated by some researcher. However, each study had its own goal, role, and limitation. So from Rizka Martiasari with the title Increasing Student Performance Through Shadowing Technique at the 11th grade of SMA and 1 Raman Utara in the academic year 2017 to 2018. This research was conducted to find out whether the implementation of shadowing technique will increase the student speaking performance. So the comparison between this research and her research was on research design and the purpose. Both of them researcher used action research. On the other hand, the purpose of this research was to improve student pronunciation. Meanwhile, her research was to increasing student speaking performance. Then this research investigates English pronunciation while his research investigates speaking performance. And hypothesis if shadowing technique is implemented effectively, the student pronunciation in speaking English will be improved. So we are going to the chapter 3, research methodology. So in this research methodology or research setting, the setting in this research will be held at the 9th grade of SMP and 31 Banjarmasin in the academic year 2022-2023. Actually, the class of this research is 9th grade in 9E. Subject of the subject and object of the research. This research was the classroom action research type, and subject of this research was the student of the 9th grade of SMPN 31 Banjarmasin. This class consists of 35 students and 19 female students and 16 male students. And the next one is data analysis. In the data analysis, there were two cycles in classroom action research, cycle 1 and cycle 2. Each cycle consists of 4 activities. They were planning, action, observing, and reflection. For the cycle one, planning was the first and basic step to do the research. Planning could make the research doing as its way. Here were action of planning. The first one is determining the research class, and then second one, preparing learning program, and the third one, preparing the topic and material related to student technique. In this research, the researcher will prepare a MP4 or MP3 and apply shadowing technique in the class. And preparing evaluation instrument, the research will use the measurement criteria from English teacher in the class. The second one is like acting, observing, and reflecting. Acting is before the treatment, the researcher will take pretest to the students. The research gives some text to the students and they read it loudly. Then the research will know the student speaking pronunciation. And then for the observing, in this step, the research would observe how the learning process the class was. The research would know about the strength and weakness of each individual. The result would use it as the input for the reflection or evaluation. And the last one is reflecting. Reflecting was analyzing the process of the research. The research will process the data from previous step, so the research will know the result and it will be used as the basis for the next cycle. So if the to the cycle 2, if the result of the cycle 1 was not enough, so the research will do the cycle by improving the previous like planning, action, observing, and reflecting again. And then for data collection technique, this research instrument use observation tests, documentation, and field note. For data, for student data, so students were given a text, it's a script from the movie or story, then student read it loudly. After that, the research analyzed the student speaking ability in terms of their pronunciation. So, so test is a set of stimuli present to an individual in order to elicit response on the basis which a numeral score could be assigned. The test was defined into two parts as follow: pretest and post-test. Pretest was used to get information how student achievement before they get a treatment. The research gives some text to the student and they read it loudly. And for the post test, the research will do post test after the student get their treatment. The research will give the student a text or a script and they would read it loudly in front of the class. After that, observation. In collecting data, the research observes student learning process and put it into the data paper. This data consists of consists of none of the student who was actively involved in the learning process. The data was made in order to know student development and as reference for the teacher to arise the participant of the student who had not involved yet. And then the third one is documentation. Documentation was to collect the data about the school, the teacher, and the student, and also the process of teaching, learning, and the research at SMPN 31 Banjarmasin. And the last one for data collection technique is field note. The research will take field note related to the classroom situation, classroom management, classroom interaction between teacher and students or students with students and etc. Yeah, I think that's all for me. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.